So I believe the live stream. Hello. I'm going to go straight to share screen. Oh goodness, it's not where I want it. Excuse me. We are still talking about rider position and the rider's seat. One of the things, one of the assignments that rider trainers in this program do, and they do it, some of them do it once a year, is they make a comparative analysis. I'm about to have need for this screen share. That. Sorry, I thought it was up already. And it wasn't. The riders make a comparative analysis for the instructions for the rider's seat, head to heel, the entire body, from at least 3 of the riding schools. Those schools being Somer, Warendorf, and Vienna. So that, I'm going back to this. Sorry, this is how I feel waiting for you guys to get things together. They do a comparative analysis, almost line by line. Some people do an elaborate PowerPoint, some people do a video, some people make it in an essay form. But the net being, you know what, this is going to distract you. The net being that these rider trainers are committed enough and convinced enough that they themselves go through the classical instructions from the primary riding schools of history, whether they have prejudices or not, whether they're Vaquero or whether they think they're French or whether they think they're German or whatever. And they do a comparative analysis of all of these instructions from these schools, and then they present them to their peers in whatever format they want, whether it's a Venn diagram or a PowerPoint or a video. But then they themselves know what these primary schools, how those masters told us to sit on a horse, and exactly what it is that the instrument of the rider's body is supposed to do. We have a caller. Anyway, so I want you guys to think about this comparative analysis as something that you could do yourself. Hello there. Hi, I'm going to put you on speakerphone and introduce you without a name. Okay. We're live. And then I'm going to put that item that you sent to me, from the Duke of Newcastle and de la Guerniere, on the screen. And I would like you to just, I may have a few questions, but I would just like to hear from you about it. Okay, I'm going to put you on speaker just a moment. Okay, testing. Yep, I can hear you. Okay, hopefully all you guys can hear the caller, who is a very accomplished professional rider for all types of riding, including stock handling and world level competition, and now even some dressage, I dare say. And here is an illustration of this collar. Will this go up here? Yes. And now I'm going to share another item that this caller sent in, or shared with me rather. I'll put the phone down a minute. I'm very awkward at this. It's like someone who forgets to shorten their name. That's how I am always. Okay. I have the item that you sent me here on the screen, and I'm going to explain quickly to the people watching or listening that this is from Francois de la Guerniere, the famous French guy who wrote down the shoulder in so clearly for all of us. And this is him recounting on how the Duke of Newcastle said we should sit on a horse. Did I get that right, sir? Should I read part of it, or what did you glean from this that you found?
Well, the reason I sent that to you was because now this is 1700s. I forget what he died in the 1800s. So somewhere in that era,
Yeah,
a couple hundred years ago, and it mirrors the instructions of Lamar and the German HEV-12,
Barndorf, yes.
Warndorf, and the principles of writing and sign correct. And I mean, I'm always intrigued about certain elements or facts about writing that have endured over time to make them almost unquestionable.
Yes, that's a really good point.
And in modern interpretation.
Wow. Yes. It's not really up for our interpretation. It's for us to conform to them.
I wish I had a comparison of the two texts, but I'm actually in my truck and I'm reading this from the photo on my phone, the same photo I sent you. I don't have my book with me.
Well, I have it up here on the screen. Would you like me to read, starting with the paragraph that says the Duke of Newcastle?
Yeah. Evidently, the Duke of Newcastle was a generation before him.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And I think he learned as a young man from him. Not quite sure, but that's roughly the story.
And what I have a question that I should know. I think the Duke of Newcastle is English and de la Guerniere is French. Is that right?
As far as I know, yes.
So then we even have more evidence that it is regardless of region or nationality, the seat is the seat.
Yeah, it doesn't belong to any one nation.
Oh, that's I like the way you said that.
You can say it belongs to the horse.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so the Duke of Newcastle, I'm reading now from de la Guerniere. The Duke of Newcastle said that a rider's body should be two movable parts and one which is immobile. The first of the two movable parts is the torso down to the waist. The other mobile part is the legs from the knee downward. Therefore, the immovable part of the body is from the waist to the knees. According to this rule, the moving parts above the waist are the head, shoulders, and arms. The head should be held straight and free above the shoulders, but relaxed and should face. You know what? I'm going to stop. Maybe we should just talk about those three parts. The immovable part of the body is from the waist to the knees, and then above the belt and from the knee downward are the movable parts. Do you have any statements on that?
Yeah, the immovable part of the body would be the base of support that's spoken about up into the U.S. cavalrymen.
Yes, yes, and what Vienna called the triangle of the seat.
The triangle, and the C, that's the Jaspy, I believe.
Yes, and that section of the rider is meant to be adhesive, stuck in place, yes?
Yeah. Well, he said the immovable part. You know, some of the language uses different terminology, but the message is the same. I know you and talking to you before have called the upper body, which he calls the movable part,
Yes,
sort of the free agent
yes,
that we must have control over.
yes. Too often it's a wild card.
The wild card. So the other thing is, I know that there's a kind of modern interpretation. I hear people say, well, I use my seat and I steer my horse with my knee.
Oh, God.
I've heard this, yeah, and I'm sure you've heard it too. And I think to myself, well, you can say what you want, but the knees, according to this and the other, like, it's part of the base of support and
Yes.
not really an aid.
Correct. The knees are not an aid. Neither are the thighs. The thighs are not an aid.
So that sort of clears that up for me, at least. I don't have to worry about, oh, gee, if you're a rider trying to learn massage speed, oh, maybe I should be using my knees. You know, maybe this, maybe that, because other people will come up with this stuff that they originate, and I just don't think we need to make up new things because this stuff is so old and established.
Yes, proven old, not old, just ancient. Like it's endured.
And if the knees were a thing that it said so,
they would have said so. Yes, and they did. They told us what the aids are: the seat, the leg, and the hand.
Right, and this actually talks about, this sums up the four natural aids without even saying the four natural aids.
Yes, yes, yes.
There is a paragraph, I wish I had the book, but there's more before about the hand.
Oh, well, maybe we can talk about that another time.
Yeah, but go ahead, where did you leave off?
Okay, now, okay, according to the rule, we covered that. The head, okay, let's talk about the head. The head should be held straight and free above the shoulders, but relaxed, and should face between the horse's ears. The shoulders should be very free and brought slightly backwards, because if the head and shoulders were in front, the buttocks would be sent toward the back of the saddle. So that the shoulders be free and brought slightly backward. This is important because along with being very ungraceful, it also causes the horse to go on his shoulders and gives him that opportunity to kick or rush forward at the slightest movement from the rider. I guess because they're not going to be carrying our weight if we're tilting forward. The arms should be bent at the elbow, joined with the torso without constraint, and fall naturally on the rider's hips. So my own arms fall and rest on my own hips. Is that how you hear it?
Yeah, and that's how I've it's taught. I'm constantly working on relaxing my shoulders.
Yes.
So that and my head resting. I mean, this is all good stuff because I can relate to it to improve the riding.
Yes.
And what rider benefits from sitting and legs, elbows, side?
Correct.
I mean, is there anyone that says no? I think the elbows stick out like that?
We are all told how the arms should be dropped and bent at the elbow, joined with the torso without constraint. In fact, the phrase without constraint is used repeatedly from many different nations, as I recall. And same with the idea of falling naturally. And now this guy, he's not making so much of an instruction book as a description. And he's 100 years older than most, 200 years older than a lot of stuff that we pay attention to. But all of them talk about this.
Not taking ownership of it.
Right. He's like, this is what my teacher said. And all of the legit teachers all tell us not what they think, but what their teacher said.
And his words, if you look up above where you started, it's sort of cut off, but he said the rider should seat himself in the middle of the saddle with his waist and buttock forward, and anywhere near the back of the saddle.
Yes.
And the rein should be held tightly, but lightly,
But firmly.
The horse moves.
Yeah, that means a closed hand, a closed fist, hollow fist.
And he referenced the back of the saddle, which relates to the section you just read.
So we could very easily apply the cheat sheet version that the armies all used, straight line ear, shoulder, hip, heel, and straight line elbow to bit, to this, what we're reading here.
Without saying it.
Yes, he
It's
says.
there.
Yes.
So it's kind of hard to argue with whether, arguably truly classical dressage.
Yes. Or for working horsemen making utility horses, this is the same, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So we relate to field ride. It's just especially when you have that base of support. But so go on further because he goes into the legs, which is another moving part of the body.
Okay, I'll read and you stop me when you want me to stop. The legs, which are the lower moving parts of the body, serve to guide and govern the body and hindquarters of the horse. When correctly positioned, they should be straight and free from the knee down and close to the horse without touching the body. That might be because the men were so tall. The thighs, what do you think? The thighs and calves, the thighs and calves should be turned in so that the flat portion of the inner thigh is glued onto the saddle flaps, like a postage stamp, glued, not pressed. Although the lower legs must be unconstrained and able to move freely, they must at the same time be secure and controlled and kept in their place, which is at the girth, as we all know. If the rider is not able to reliably control his legs, they will bang incessantly on the horse's sides, thereby keeping the animal in a state of continuous disorder. Those are fighting words. That's the kind of statement that'll get you kicked out of a Facebook group.
Well, I know from personal experience of my personal riding habits I've had to correct was that lack of control of my lower leg was sending so much white noise to my horse that it was hard for a horse to actually pay attention to the aid you're giving, which would be very imperceptible to a human eye to watch. But and then this especially happens with a lead change.
Yeah.
It's very, you don't need, my leg would just like swing out wildly, like it had a life of its own. And the horse either is forced to ignore that or just be confused by what he's talking about.
Yes.
But anyway, these paragraphs, it's so timely because this is just like, it's carried through to modern riding. Like, I don't know how many instructors are there that maybe they can't demonstrate it well, but would they argue with this? I mean, how?
Well, I'm not really seeing it produced across the board in riders coming up. So I don't know how many teachers and trainers are insisting on it, but it really does work. And I love a statement from the HDV 12 that tells us just point blank, the closer the leg is to the girth, the better it works to activate the hind end.
Well, and the activation of the hind end again is another one of those themes that is recurring to all the literature.
Yes.
So, that's the kind of thing that interests me and fascinates me. I don't care too much for modern arguments and inventions. When most of the time, if somebody says they invented something, you go, that you just reworded what everybody said for several hundred years.
Yes, I think it's much more interesting to see how near we can come to these instructions. And it is a little bit magical. The horses really come together on their own.
Yeah, from the picture writing. So, yeah, it's good stuff.
May I read the last paragraph? Do you have a couple more minutes?
Oh, yeah, read the last paragraph.
If the rider's lower legs are too distant from the horse, he will not be able to aid or punish the horse when he should, which is at the time a fault is committed. If the legs are too far forward, they can't be used on the horse's belly, which is the correct place for the leg aids. If, on the contrary, his legs are too far back, the aids will be directed to the flanks, a part of the horse too sensitive and too easily punished too severely to apply the spurs there. Wow, that's a really good point. That's not what spurs are for. One last point about the legs. If the rider's legs do not hang low enough when his weight is on the stirrups, he will push himself out of the saddle.
So he's talking about too short stirrups.
Yeah, or also maybe that the rider hasn't let go and allowed the leg to drop so that it rests its weight. The weight of the leg has to hang. Yes. Yeah. Hang. Yeah. And there's a typo in Somer and Fort Riley. It typed HAND instead of HANG, just as a little aside.
Oh, right. I remember. Oh.
So, okay, so I think this Duke of Newcastle, so he was way older than any of my teachers, but that sounds like where my teachers got their information.
Yeah, I think the history is important to know how it all evolved.
I think it's very important.
There are some that argue we're so much more advanced.
We're not. We are falling apart. I think we have to.
Thanks to people like you.
Thank you. And you for also doing it.
Yeah, we're well, working on it.
Yes, but
Concepts I wish I had been taught this concept modern.
well, it's all coming.
But in the Western tradition, back then, Ray Hunt, Tom Doran, those guys, they talk about the lessons weren't part of writing.
No.
I've never had a writing lesson in their life.
No, but I never saw Ray Hunt's lower leg anywhere but at the girth, or the cinch, rather.
I know. But it's just interesting that if we don't come, we learn the hard way.
Yes, sadly.
Versus the European model of apprenticeship. And the classical arts are always very studied. Painting and music.
Yes, and they use a curriculum for everyone, so everyone is learning the same thing. And then they have to prove it's just like 5th grade math. They have to do long division. They have to show the writing. They have to prove the writing. The writing isn't tailored for the kid. The kid has to conform to what the writing is. That's one of the biggest problems going on as far in.
Well, I like the idea of have to show your work.
Yes.
Which is where I try to come from, rather than get on Facebook and I can talk a good talk, like, oh, I know what he's talking about, but it doesn't count unless you can show the work.
That's right. And the other good thing about getting in the habit of showing our work and, you know, understanding the circle that prepared the change of rein or the shoulder in or the flying change is then if something goes wrong, and it will, we can go back and we know where to suss out any little problem to solve.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a roadmap. And the horses understand that too. And so, oh, it's that. Oh, they say, oh, I didn't connect that. And then they're fine. Yeah. It's an incredibly great system. And yes, it's a system, isn't it? A system and a language. Well, I want to thank you for calling in. This was extremely interesting and informative for others. I think it will be. And hopefully we can do it again another time. Maybe we'll do another page from de la Guerniere telling us what his teacher, the Duke of Newcastle, told him.
There's a lot of pages.
All right.
All of them. Okay, Jane, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that's plenty of input for all of our minds for the week.